were wiped out by the Babylonians. They marched in, they pillaged, they raped, they destroyed Jerusalem, they destroyed the temple, they destroyed Israel. They took the best and the brightest and they dispersed them in groups to various parts of the Babylonian kingdom with the idea of using them, the best and the brightest, to try to enhance their culture, their civilization, and those who didn't demonstrate the best and the brightest in this, they were slaves and pretty much put into chain gangs. And on the whole, some were treated okay, most were not treated well. So here we are some 40 years later when this story that Sean is about to read takes place. And what's interesting is the people of God have been saying, where's God? I'm captive. Is God ever going to come? How can God care about me? And this great passage, I love all of Scripture, but this particular passage is one of my favorites. So listen carefully.
This is from Isaiah 40, 20-31. Have you not known? Have you not heard? Has it not been told to you from the beginning? Have you not understood from the foundations of the earth? It is he who sits above the circle of the earth, and its inhabitants are like grasshoppers, who stretch out the heavens like a curtain, and spreads them like a tent to live in, who brings princes to naught, and makes the rulers of the earth as nothing. Scarcely they are planted, scarcely sown, scarcely are their stems taken to root in the earth. When he blows upon them, and they wither, and the tempest carries them off like stubble. To whom then will you compare me? Or who is my equal, says the Holy One. Lift up your eyes on high and see, who created these? He will bring out their hosts and their numbers them, calling them by name, because he is great in strength, mighty in power, not one is missing. Why do you say, O Jacob, and speak, O Israel, my way is hidden from the Lord, and my right is disregarded by my God? Have you not known? Have you not heard? The Lord is everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He does not faint or grow weary. His understanding is unsearchable. He gives power to the faint and strengthens the powerless. Even youths will faint and be weary, and the young will fall exhausted. But those who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up on the wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Thank you, Sean. So let's try to wrap our hands and heads around what Isaiah is saying. This is second Isaiah. There's actually three writers of Isaiah. And to do that, I'd like you to take out a 1 page of paper, bulletin, insert, I don't care. Whatever you want. So how far is it from Earth to the sun? 93 million miles. I'll save you thinking about that. 93 million miles. This piece of paper represents 93 million miles, the distance from us to the sun. Now, the nearest star to the sun would be a stack of paper 71 feet high. 71 feet high. Each single piece of paper is how far? 93 million miles. 71 feet to the closest star. So how far is it then to the end of the galaxy? It would take paper to be stacked 310 miles from here to St. Louis to get us to the edge of this one galaxy, and we're only one galaxy among millions of galaxies. How awesome is our God? That's what we mean when we say that God is a transcendent transcendent God. God is the big, huge God who is out there. Well, the people of God thought that God was so far out there that he didn't even know what was going on with the people that were in captivity. And yet Isaiah puts it into perspective. He says, consider the universe and then consider how we, the people, are in that big picture. Now, he didn't have the advantage of the Hubble telescope, did he, that Isaiah guy who's writing. He says that you and I are like what? Grasshoppers. We are like grasshoppers. I love that metaphor. Whenever I'm feeling bad, I just say, okay, I'm a grasshopper. But what is impressive, according to both the psalmist and the writer, the prophet Isaiah, is the way in which God creates not only the bigness of all creation, but that God cares and calls each of us by name. That's the beauty of understanding God and how God relates to all of creation. He's the God who summons each of us by name and who cares about us. And nobody needed care more than the Israelites who were in captivity. It's been 40 years. 40 years in the Bible, when you hear that, it represents a generation. So there were many who were in captivity that had never set foot in Israel, had never seen the city when it had been in full construction, had never walked into the temple. And they were starting to forget. But they didn't stop wondering where God was. And they asked that question. They said, in our captivity, where is God? Have you ever asked that? I've been in captivity in my life, and I would guess you've been in captivity. I don't mean physical captivity. I'm talking about a time when you feel isolated from the way you think your life should be. Sometimes we can be a captive to bad health. Now, I know this never happens to you, but when I don't feel well, I just feel so sorry for myself. I just say, oh, I just feel so sorry. But there's people that have a lot of really serious things that feel in captivity to cancer, in captivity to multiple sclerosis, in captivity to who knows what. And some of us have lingered there longer than others. Some of us are captive to relationships that didn't work, marriages that failed. Some of us are in captivity to relationships in family that are stressful. Some of us are in captivity to either being underemployed or not employed or hating what we do. My guess is that each of us, in some way or another, either has been or can think of right now how we're in captivity to something that diminishes us from being the people that God's calling us to be. And that's why the prophet Isaiah starts off, what's the first words that Sean read? Have you not heard? Don't you know? Don't you remember this God? The God who was the big God out there? Don't you remember that even though you think you're a grasshopper, that He knows your name and He cares about you? He knows that you're captive. And He wants to do something about it. But then the prophet says the hard part. What? What do we have to do? We have to wait. We have to wait. Now, what does wait mean? Does wait mean, okay, I'll wait till tomorrow, God? Maybe. Does wait mean maybe a lifetime? Maybe. I don't know what wait means. Because time to God is different than time to you and me. But what I do know is that in that waiting period, God meets us cares about us, and gives us the potential for new hope and new strength. And what are we told? Those who wait upon the Lord will do what? Will be lifted up on what?
Wings like
Now, how many of
eagles.
you have been to a funeral where you've heard that song sung? Okay, and and I don't want to diminish this, but we're all crying for the loved one, and we're saying, well, I hope they're lifted up to heaven. But that's not what it means in Isaiah. Eagles' wings are wings of themselves. They're the symbol of God's presence. What do angels have?
Wings.
They have wings. I don't know, I've never seen one, so at least, we put wings on them. Why do we put wings on them? We put wings on them because they were a symbol of the fact that God was with them and God would lift them up. And that's the story of this scripture, that I don't know what your captivity is. But here's the three things that I know. That God knows who you are. That God knows the captivity that you're experiencing. That God will be alongside you. And that we have to wait. And that at some point, at some time, either in this world or the world to come, we will be lifted up. And we will be given new beginnings. Might be our new beginning is tomorrow. Don't know. Might be our new beginning is, the end of the month. My new beginning is March 2nd. I know that. I know that for sure. I don't know when your new beginning is. But all we're told is that we are to trust. If we can trust a God who can create a galaxy that's a zillion miles wide and who calls us by name, we can trust that God will lift us up and hold us in the palm of His hand.